Hey guys, in this video, we're going to be building this WhatsApp clone using React, Firebase, Tailwind CSS, and Daisy UI. Okay, so as you can see, it uses Google Authentication Provider. We're testing this in two different users so to really get the chat experience. So I'm going to click sign in with Google here. Okay, that automatically signs me in. I'm going to click sign in with Google here. Okay, now I am automatically signed in with two different users. So what I want to do here, I want to just ask this guy, hey, are you free? So we type in the message and we see it here. I can see it's green here and it's white here. It's on the right here and it's on the left here. And I'm just going to say yes. And it's going to show here. Yeah, it's going to say, okay, have you washed tech up front? I'm going to type here. I'm going to say no. You you should subscribe for more. And it takes us okay. So this is a real-time chatting application using Firebase, React, Daisy UI, Tailwind. There's a lot to learn here, and I hope you really enjoy it. One last thing here, we can log out. That's the application in a nutshell. Okay, hey guys, let's get started building the WhatsApp clone or the chat application. So first of all, we're going to get started with some starter files. So these are the starter files that I want you to download. So you can just click on code, download, and it's going to download a bunch of files for you. So if you click on the starter files, you get everything you need here. Okay, so the link is going to be in the description down below. Okay, so once you have downloaded those starter files, it should look something like this in VS Code. Don't worry if you don't get the dist folder. This is not really important. In fact, I'm going to delete that. So once you have downloaded that, it should look something like this. Notice that there's no node modules folder, and I'll go through all the files really quickly. So first of all, in the app.jsx component, what we have here is a bunch of imports. We're importing the navbar, login, chat, and form. So this is basically what our application is going to get divided to. We're just having a bunch of empty inputs for now. And all these imports here are imports I'm going to use from Firebase. You don't need to worry about them right now. As you can see, they are really grayed out. So you can see that if you go to those components, they're really just empty. There's not much there yet. And lastly, but not the least, we have Tailwind CSS and Daisy UI. As you can see, Daisy UI is right here. We have Post CSS as well. So to get started with the application, we can't just run npm dev. We have to install all the dev dependencies and the dependencies that we need. So to do that, just come here and run npm I. And this is going to take quite a while. So I'm just going to pause the video at this point. So you should get something like this. Everything has installed. You can see it's quite a lot, 429 packages. I'm going to clear the terminal. Then I'm going to run npm run dev. So what we're going to do is that these four components, we're going to do them in we're going to do them from top to bottom. So we're going to start with the easiest navbar, the login. We're going to start with the form and the chat, not the chat then the form. Okay, that's the only exception there. So we're going to copy this. Sorry, I'm simply off the server. So it's actually supposed to be Control Shift C, copy. I'm going to paste it right here. And by the way, we're using Daisy UI. And if you download the starter files, that's already been set up for you, so you don't need to set up anything. We're just going to copy and paste some components and make a few edits. Paste that inside here. That should start. Come here and let's see what we get. Okay. Let's refresh that. Let's see. Inspect in case there are any errors. So you just have this blank canvas with nothing really on it. So if we don't have any errors, we just have this blank canvas. So this blank canvas is where the chat is going to be taking place. And the top here is the navbar section. So I said, let's get started building the navbar. So we just have three states here. So don't forget. I'm going to click on the navbar. Okay, so just have an empty. So we're going to come to Daisy UI. We're going to click on their components and we're going to edit some few things. So you want to come here and you want to look for the navbar section. So, navbar section. So is I think it's under navigation. Then you can click on navbar. I think the navbar I used was this one. I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna make massive changes to it. I'm gonna paste this here. Actually, let's so this is what we have. We're gonna paste this and we're gonna check this right here. So that shows up accordingly. By the way, we're not supposed to have this massive space here. Okay, okay, I know why we have the space. We'll fix that in a moment. So we want to edit this nav bar. We don't want the drop down, so we're gonna remove this. I think we're gonna remove this. We don't want the drop down. Remove this. Remove everything here. Okay. So this is what we just want. We want to write WhatsApp. And we want this to be the user profile image, but we don't quite yet have a user yet, so it's not gonna be. And finally, we want this to be a out, log out button, log out BT. So you're going to see a file called firebase.js and it's empty. So what we're going to do, we're going to initialize Firebase in this folder. So if you have never used Firebase before, come to this URL. And you click on go to console. As you see, I have never used Firebase before because I have a new Gmail here. I created a new Gmail just for the sake of this tutorial. So it's going to tell us to create a project like so. So we're going to click on create project and we're going to call this WhatsApp clone. You're going to click on accept, then continue. You can enable or disable this, is quite up to you. It says configure analytics location. We can just leave this as it is. You know what? We can go back and disable Google Analytics. It's not really significant, so just reduce the complexity. So now it's going to create a Firebase project for us. So give it a minute. I've done it. Okay, now our project is ready. Kind of like the animation. We can continue. So the first thing I need to do is I want to add an app. I'm going to call this WhatsApp. So, and by the way, it doesn't have to be the same thing with the project name. I just like to just keep everything consistent. You can register app. So it's going to tell us to install Firebase, but we have already done this. If you download the starter files and run npm I. So we just have to just do is just click on copy here, click on next. Next, we're done in this and continue to console. Come to Visual Studio Code, paste every single thing here. remove this, that's not going to be needed, and remove this. So you can see that we just have initialize app and we have this. This is great enough, but it initializes the app. We need to use other services like the database and the authentication. So to do that, we're going to say import get Firestore because that's what the database is called. Nice. Just you could do that for me. And get auth, which that's what the authentication is called. And if that did not do for you, just easily import it here. Constant DB is going to be equal to get Firestore of app. Copy paste this. Constant auth is going to be equal to get auth of Firebase. So we initialize the auth and the database. You just want to just export db and auth. Nicely done. So we're not going to be using this file again. So let's come to the app to .js. So first of all, before we can start using Google authentication, we have to click on the authentication tab and use initialization there. So we're going to click on get started and Google authentication enable. Click on your email, that is my email, and save. So after this, Google authentication should be enabled. Nice. So because everything kind of rests upon the authentication, it's very important. So let's also start doing the authentication part of it as well. So click on the login component as here. See, it has a class name of login form. So I'm just gonna put this in curly braces. Yes. So what do we want to do here? So we want to have an image, and that is going to be logo. Again, the starter files, you should have this. Save. You just want to just have a button. It says sign. Okay, sorry. Sign in with nice. If we look at this right here, it says sign in with Google, and the way it's perfectly centered is using CSS. So we have to come to here and click. So using that Daisy UI class, there are a few classes we can use here. We can use class name, BTN, accent. As you can see, I have a Tailwindcss extension that allows me to that auto completes the classes for me. So nice, we have that. But it doesn't do anything at the moment. So what we want to do is that we want to write the function here and pass it to this login component. So what we want to do, we want to sign in the user. So we're just going to call this handle click. It's going to be equal to a function. So you can see that we have some stuff here. So to do this, we have to sign up with pop-up and import those stuff here. We're going to say import auth. Remember those stuff that we initialized and db from Firebase dot slash. Okay, sorry. So we're going to import that from dot forward slash Firebase.js, not Firebase. Remember, the dot forward slash is points to our file, not the it directly. So we're going to say sign in with pop-up. I'm going to pass in the auth and we're going to pass in the auth provider. So our auth provider is going to be Google Auth Provider. I'm going to say new Google Auth Provider. And by the way, it is imported for you right over here. I'm going to say dot then. I'm not really concerned with this. Okay, we're going to say dot then. We can console log what's here. If there were any errors, catch the errors and just alert the user what the error dot message is. So save this. And what we have to do is that we have to pass it to a function. We have to pass it as a function here. Handle click and click. And we're going to destructure handle click. Then on click, we want to say handle click. So come here. When we click on sign in, it's going to load up that pop-up, as you can see. It's going to tell us to sign in. So I'm going to sign in with this Gmail. Okay, so I'm signed in. So let's see what gets logged to the console. It says this is the user credential. So this is what we get from that. Okay, that's working successfully. But what we want to do is I want to use a use effect. Use effect. What we want to do exactly is to know when the user has logged in again, guys, to track the current state of the user. So we want to use on auth state changed, passing the auth, and we have and the user variable is available to us. So what we want to do is I want to say set user. I want to pass in the user. So what this is going to do is that it's going to listen to when all state change. When there's a user on it, it's going to set it to this variable. So what we want to do here, we want to say user. So only when there's a user, we want to show the login. Actually, only when there's not a user that we want to show the login component. Because when there's no user, it means that you need to log in. So save this so that doesn't show anymore. Nice. So I want to show you the user profile image here. And so what we do here is that we can just pass in the user to the navbar. User, just pass in the user to the navbar like so. What I want to do is I want to come to the navbar, accept that user variable, and we want to check. And what this does is that it says if user is false, don't run this side. But if there's a user, if user is true, run this side. What we want to say is I just want to just give it an image. Source. So we have an image like so. So if there's a user, we want to render out user.photo URL. It's a property that is available on the user object. Save. And if we refresh, that's how to show. Okay, we'll tackle that in a minute. But now that we're done with our login component, and we're always done with our navbar and chat components as well. So the same thing with the chat component. We only want to show it when there's a user. So user and chat. We want to show this when there's a user. Same thing with our form as well. So we will refactor this in a moment. User and form. So what the form is responsible for doing is for adding chats. That's what the form is responsible for doing. So what we want to do is that we want to come to inputs, text input. So you can pick anyone you really like here. I went to this one because I kind of like the green color. Just copy that. Then come to the form. So Inside the form, you can just come here like this, paste this here, and paste in a button of submit. Give this a class name of btn accent for a green color. Save this. We see our form right now. So what we want to do is that when this form is clicked, we want to add new things to the database. Yep. And we haven't quite talked about the database in a moment, so let's set that up in the back. So the database that we're using is called Firestore. Create database. And here you have to be super, you have to pay attention here. Click start in test mode. Enable. Okay, so that's going to create our database for us. So what we want to do is that we want to come here, say const handle submit is going to be equal to a function. It's going to be equal to a function. What we want to do is I want to add things to the database. Remember, this and this are imported already for you. So first of all, the first thing I want to do is I want to track whatever the user is typing. So to do that, we're going to pass in a pop set input to this form function. Set input, so we know exactly what the user is typing. So we're going to come to form, set input, then on colon change. We're going to update the variable is set input e.target. So this is going to be an async function. And what we want to do is I want to await. So it's using async await. It's cleaner than a dot then. So what I want to do here is I want to say add doc. I'm passing a collection. And we're going to call this a chat room. So the first argument is that DB variable actually, which kind of like initializes everything. So the DB variable, then where we're sending it to, then the actual data. So the data that we're going to be sending in is let's just call this message. It's going to be equal to the input. I want to send in the user, the email of the user that sent that. So email, this is going to be from user.email. I want to set the date to be server timestamp. So this is going to be used Firebase on their timestamp. They're going to get this for us. They're going to help us to, instead of using date or not, they're going to help us to put in a server generated time for us. So this is essentially what we just want to add to the database. So we're going to pass this to form component. So handle submit, handle submit. So we're going to destructure that handle submit. And we're going to apply this to the form. Give this a type of submit because when the input or the button is pressed and when the input, when you type enter, they are all going to run. So handles, that's one of the advantages of why people use forms. So click on handle submit. So you can see our database has created. You can see our image is finally showing. We'll adjust that in a moment. Let's make sure we have no errors. So let's go to the bottom. Clear. I don't think we have any errors. So let's come here now and type a submit. Okay, sorry, we're supposed to run e.prevent default. to stop the form from refreshing. So let's type this again. Hey, uh-uh. Okay. Oh yeah, so I spelled default wrongly. Default. Okay, it should be correct right now. It says uncaught error. Collection cannot be called with an empty path. Hmm. So when we get an error like this, so it's always a good idea to check the docs be just know what we're doing and make sure we don't make too many errors. So we're going to click on the add data. So you, as a web developer or any developer, you should always be comfortable with documentation and getting to know how to use them. So I think I've already seen the error already just by glancing at the documentation. So what is happening here is that the DB is supposed to be here. Because whatever the first argument here is supposed to be this DB object, and the DB object is right here, which is the configuration of Firebase, of the database. Actually. So let's fix that, and no errors. Let's come here, refresh that, and we see our chat room collection. We see that, and we see the message. Everything has been added properly, and you can see that I wrote down several timestamp generated. One more thing that I like to add actually here is an ID property. So I'm just going to call this crypto dot random UID. I actually love to do this. So what we're going to do, we're going to come here, add a new one, and we're going to see that generated ID here. So we don't need the old one again anymore. Let's document. Okay, now, so we are able to add chat, but we're not able to see the chat, right? So that's what we want to work on next. So what we want to do is I want to load the chat only when there's a user and populate whatever is in the chat component. So we're gonna use a real-time snapshot listener so that when the data changes, we can see that in real time. So on snapshot, I'm gonna pass in the collection. Since the collection is chat room, as always, we need to pass in the DB. Then this returns to us the snapshot function. So what we want to do is that we want to set it to this chart. So we want to say set chart snapshot.docs. And we can just console the log. So let's see what we get. The snapshot. If it says, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So you see that here. I know that's not quite the data yet, but that's because we need to run a special function to get the data. And one more thing, let's check here. We see the email, which is very, very important. Okay. So now what we want to do is I want to pass in chats. So say chats as chats. So we want to come to the chat component. This one is going to be a long one. So actually, we should actually pass in user to chat actually, because that's also going to be useful. See. So in the chat component, what do we want to do exactly? First thing I want to do is I want to cycle through chats, but as always, want to check if want to check if there is chat. Then want to cycle through chats. So chat.map for each individual chat. Want to run a special function. Okay, we want to return. Okay, it's giving me an error because I'm not currently returning something. So what we want to return is an alert component. So let's come to Daisy UI. So I think alert is normally here, the data. So the alert component that we're using is this one. Okay, alert success. I want to say div. So we want to give this div a class name, and you don't just want to just give it anyhow class name, because as you can see that your own messages are called from somebody else's messages. To do that, we want to run something here. So what we want to do is that we want to say alert, right? I want to say alert success, but we can't just say alert success so easily. You know what? We're going to do it like this. I'm going to say chat dot email equal to user dot email. So what this means that if the chat dot email is equal to the user email, that means it's the user that sent that message. So what we want to do is I want to put a ternary operator. If that's true, we want to have a class of alert success, because your messages are green. Then we want to have a class of, if you come to the index of CSS file, another big advantage of downloading, you can see we have, I'm just going to delete this. We have two classes, right and left. And what right and left do that they position it respectively. So if it's not your message, for in this case, if it is your message, you want to show it at the right. So we're just going to give it class of right. Else, we want to have, so if it isn't your message, you just want it to be alert left. So what this function is saying, if the chat email is equal to the user email, make it an alert, make it green and position it to the right. Else, position it to the left and make it white. We don't see anything here because we see white. So let's continue. And to actually get the data, I want to say chat.data. Yeah, I want to say chat.data.message. Okay, we see that right here. And if we type in test, we can see our messages being shown here. But there's quite something wrong because our own message is supposed to be green and on the left hand section. So let's see what's going on here. What we should just do is that we should also output the chat dot email. Okay, I get what's the problem already. I get what the problem is. So we have to say chat dot data dot email. Okay, you can see that these messages are not ours. That's why they are positioned on the left. We are going to test it, by the way. But before we do that, let's tackle this avatar. As you can see here, there are avatar classes. All we just have to just do, go to the JSX, you can just say avatar rounded full with 24 rounded. So what we can do is come to the navbar component, give it a class name of with rounded full and a class name of avatar, which is appearance. Save, come here back, Let's refresh this. So our class is not yet showing yet. Anyhow, it might take some time for it to load up. So what I do want to do is I want to check, I want to load up another user and see that if that other user, if the messages from the other users are going to show. But before we do that, there's one small error that we need to do here. There's one small error that we need to address. The messages are not being loaded in an alphabetical form. So normally the messages that you sent last are supposed to show, well, at the last section. If you're typing E, you can see E goes to the second where it's supposed to be here, because it's supposed to be the last message actually. So to fix that, we're going to wrap this in a query, which is very important. You cannot do this otherwise. And we're going to say order by, I want to order by the date. And you can see that is there. And if we type 1, 10, you can see it's always going to be at the bottom, which is very, very nice. We're going to make this logout button work. We're going to come to the navbar. But let's see if we add in another user, if the messages are going to show here as well. So what I did essentially is that I loaded up the application in a different tab. So as you can see here is that these are my messages. They are green and then they are on the right. Why on this guy, this is not his messages, so they are on the left and they are white. So if he sends a message and say, hey, they are going to be green and it's going to be on his left because this is message, and why for this guy it is not his message. You can say, are you free? And I can say, yeah. Can see the messages are always, the recent messages are showing at the last because of the date. So at this point, we have pretty much done everything we have to do here. All we just have to just do is just take care of this navbar and this login button, because at the moment we can't log in. So let's go to the navbar component and see how we want to do that. So what is exactly wrong with this image? Let's inspect. We look at the image, we are giving it, everything is working, but it's not still having that class. Let's give it width, and we can do a custom value by putting it in brackets, so 100 pixels. Okay, so we could style this by ourselves. Let's just make our own class that says uh, user image. So we could come here and say user image, border radius 50%. Like I said, whatever we try, it's not working. So in the meantime, let's do the logout button. Logout button. I'm gonna be taking the auth module. Come here. We want to add in. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Okay, it's in the navbar. I want to take in the auth module. So auth. And what do we want to do here essentially? So what we want to do here, we come to the navbar. Say on click. I want to run an anonymous function that says auth.sign out. Save. We took in the auth module. We passed it from app.js, and when we sign out, it should sign out. Nice. Sign in with Google. And we can log in and we see our messages. So as for this container here, we keep on adding messages. There's gonna be a scroll bar here right here. and you can adjust the container of this to how you see fit. So well, we would end the video here, but let's firstly tackle this image. Okay, I could try giving it a style property, but let's try that in the browser first. Okay, we're gonna say border radius 50%. See, that worked, but when we're giving it our, why wasn't our classes working on it? So with 100 pixels. So what we just want to just do, if that isn't working, we can just give it a style property of an object, border radius 50% and a width of 100 pixels. Save, log out, log in. Okay, nice, and we see our button has been properly fixed. Okay, so this was the chat application and the WhatsApp clone. I hope you really enjoyed the application and thank you for watching, and I will see you